Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our forum. We will now proceed to our panel discussion, where we will hear diverse perspectives on cybersecurity, AI safety, and cross-sector collaboration. We're honored to have a distinguished group of panelists with us this afternoon, so please join me in giving them a warm round of applause as they take the stage. Let us first invite our moderator, Professor Chia-Mu from Yang-Ming Giao Thông University. Welcome. And next, please join me in welcoming our panelists. Welcome Dr. Karl Pazdernik, Chief Data Scientist and Team Lead at Pacific Northwest National Laboratory. And Ms. Cindy Gonzales, Deputy Director of the Data Science Institute at Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory. Next, Dr. Ying-Dar, President of National Institute of Cybersecurity. Welcome to the stage. Also welcome Mr. Chao Shih-Lung, Director General of the Department of Information Technology, Taipei City Government. We look forward to an open and engaging discussion. All right, so welcome our panelists to the stage. And now let's hand the floor over to our moderator, Professor Yo, to lead the conversation.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the second panel session. So here the panelists include the Karl and Cindy, the speaker from the previous sessions. And then we have two additional panelists. One is Dr. Ying-Dar Lin. He's a director of National Institute of Cybersecurity. And another one is Shih-Lung Chao. He is a director of the Department of Information Technology from the Taipei City Government. And they are invited to share their view from the more like a government-like point of view. Yeah, so here, actually similar to the previous panel session in the morning, we have a Slido, so please feel free to input your question, and then I'm gonna pass the question to the panelist. Okay, so we already have some prepared question for the panelists, but we're gonna start with the prepared questions. Okay, so the first question, please, yeah. So the first question is like, some of you are familiar with some AI safety standard or the regulation, like the ISO 42001 or maybe IEEE 7000, something like this. Yeah. So is there any standard or regulation we missed? And to fulfill the requirement of this standard or regulation, is there any particular challenge? Please share your view. And we started from the Karl.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I think developing an international consensus on a challenge like what standards for evaluating AI models we need to have is certainly a difficult task. Getting global consensus on almost any topic can be a challenging task, and certainly in the space of AI security. I think that what gives me some promise is that we have institutes like in the U.S., the Center for AI Standards and Innovation, your Taiwanese Center for AI Safety, organizations that are at least interested in having the conversation and wanting to have a global consensus. There will likely be challenges to creating, even in the benchmark space, an evaluation metric that is consistent, that everyone can agree on, has the right measures, that isn't biased towards one particular population. Those are going to be some of the challenges that we're going to have to address. Something that is truly a global standard that is fair to all people. But there are some examples of this already in place. One is in the International Electrotechnical Commission, where they're working on standards for the use of AI in various energy, electronic components, and related technologies. So there is kind of evidence that this is at least coming and that people are starting to work on it.
Thank you for your sharing. And Cindy?
Yeah, I think coming up with an international consensus or even creating standards is going to be a challenging problem. As Karl's talk earlier highlighted, there are many different ways to evaluate these models. There are many different vectors that you need to take a look at. And Karl's talk was actually highlighting only for large language models. There are other types of models such as vision language models, vision models, custom models. And so having the understanding of the downstream application of these models is something that's going to be a challenge that we'll have to come to a consensus on, both industry-specific and international consensus of especially models that are reaching AGI and other superhuman performance.
Yep, Dr. Ying-Dar Lin, please.
Yes, so I think there might be not just one single standard, but a set of foundation, a set of basic standards for foundation models. And then you need to customize for different industries. So then each industry would have would evolve to specific standards. So from what I can see is that there should be a set of basic standard plus a set of customized standard for various industries. That's first. And for example, the ISO 27090 is a standard for AI safety, and it appears to be a generic standard for all areas. But again, you need to customize them for car industry or medical industries. So that's one thing. The other thing is I'd like to say is that the challenge lies in, as you can see from the previous talk, that we talk about benchmark, and the benchmark could be dynamic, not instead of static, and the benchmark would allow you to generate some variation so that you can test the uncertainty of a model. And there should be also, the benchmark should also have some adversarial test data so that you can see if there are some malicious users, how the model will respond. And also, that to complicate the whole thing, you might not be testing a foundation model. You could be testing a foundation model plus many other things. For example, RAG, or MCP, or A2A. So you might be testing a black box instead of just a foundation model. And then how do you need to make sure which part you are testing. Are you testing the foundation model, or you're testing its particular RAG? So that's the challenge. But I just talked to our speaker earlier that I'm still optimistic regarding AI evaluation or AI benchmarking compared to traditional exams. If you're looking at traditional exams like SAT, GRE, or TOEFL, these are the exams are made by human being experts. And once the test question have been used, you cannot use it again. And it takes human effort to generate these tests. And then you probably can only generate each time hundreds of test questions. But with AI test data or benchmark, if you generate from a model to generate test data, you could generate thousands in one shot. And every time it could be different. So from this regard, I still feel that the difficulty of AI testing or benchmarking is easier than traditional exam that we have in the real world. And besides, because these are you can do a lot of automation regarding producing the test data and also checking the response. For example, the LLM judge. You can have LLM judge. So this makes things much easier compared to traditional exams. And if you think in that way, then you will feel more optimistic on the optimistic side. So that's my observation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lin. And please go ahead, the Director Zhao.
Okay, thank you, Professor Yu. As a commissioner of the Department of Information Technology at the Taipei State Government, I have observed that the international community is increasingly aware of the importance of establishing robust standards for evaluating the safety of AI models. Over the past few years, organizations such as the International Organization of Standardization, ISO, and the National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, in the United States and the European Union have all made significant progress in this area. For example, ISO IEC 24028 provided guidelines for AI risk management, while NIST has published a AI risk management framework which emphasizes trustworthiness, transparency, and accountability. The Europe Union's AI Act also sets out requirements for high-risk AI systems, including mandatory risk assessments and post-market monitoring. These efforts reflect growing consensus on the need for a risk-based life cycle approach to AI safety. However, despite this progress, several challenges remain. First, there is still no universal acceptance set of benchmarks or matrices for evaluating AI safety across different domains and use cases. AI models are highly context dependent, and what is considered safe in one application is not be appropriate in another. Second, the rapid pace of AI development often outstrips the ability of standards, bodies, and regulators to keep up. New types of models, such as large language models and generative AI, presents novel risk that existing frameworks may not fully address. Third, the complexity and opacity of many AI models, especially deep learning systems, make it difficult to understand their decision-making process and identify potential vulnerabilities. This black box problem complicates efforts to ensure transparency and accountability. Finally, there are significant challenges related to data privacy, bias, and fairness, which are integral to AI safety but require multidisciplinary solutions. For governments like Taipei City, it is essential to stay engaged with international standard setting up efforts while also adapting global best practices to local needs. We must invest capacity building, foster collaboration between public and private sectors, and encourage ongoing research and to address emerging risks. Only through such a comprehensive and adaptive approach can we ensure the safe and responsible development of AI technologies. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Director Zhao. And let's move on to the question 2. Yep, so it is pretty common to use the red teaming for before the release of the AI system or even the large language model, right? Yeah, so this is a common practice now. Yeah, so during the red teaming, do you have any kind of the success or failure experience in mind? Can you share some of the experience or the cases with us? And please, Karl.
Yeah, so in terms of red teaming AI models, some challenges are expected, but can be overcome fairly easily. So when you're red teaming an AI model, there are challenges like trying to understand what a model actually knows versus what a model is willing to tell you. Some of these things can be overcome with various techniques, and we'll kind of cover some actually in the workshop tomorrow. And so those are maybe some examples of success stories. However, what I find is more interesting than necessarily whether a model can produce the correct answer or whether it actually knows the information is what the model can actually do with that information and how you actually red team that activity. So one of the big challenges as we're moving, especially with generative models, is if you can determine that a model can produce a correct answer to something that you wouldn't want it to, what is it going to do with that piece of information? What is the actual risk associated with it? Can it actually take that a step further and take that information and, you know, as we're talking about chem bio weapons of mass destruction, can it take that piece of information and start to develop that weapon? Those are the things that, as your red team model, is very difficult to actually even quantify at what point it is capable of doing such a thing, and how you'd even ask the right questions. Do you put the model in the right environment to actually be able to assess whether it can or not? Those are some real practical obstacles to evaluating that type of a model. So that's some successes in terms of just understanding the knowledge of the model, and then the obstacles of when you actually put AI into real world situations, what can it actually do?
Thank you, Karl. So, Cindy?
Some of the main challenges that we've experienced are when you're developing red teaming activities, a lot of the times you have to actually enlist domain experts to red team the models for you to know what to ask and whether the answers are deemed risky or not. A big practical obstacle encountered here would be actually getting the time of a domain expert to sit down and interact with these models. So when we were starting up on oatmeal, for example, Brian and I started working together. Brian has domain expertise in the chemistry field, and it was really just getting him to sit down with the model and start asking it questions and interacting with the model to understand its capabilities. You know, luckily we were able to cover his time to do that and get some time away from other obligations that he has. But it is a big ask to bring in domain experts to sit down and evaluate these models. Not just ask the questions, but do a pretty thorough evaluation and then determine where do they see the risk? Where is the, you know, scale of risk, as we can call it, is like, you know, when are you starting to get when is it clear? Like, when is the answer okay to you? When is it getting weird? And then when is it actually a sign of something, a dangerous capability that we need to assess further? And, you know, the stochastic nature of these models makes it so that you can't always get the same answer. So a lot of the times it's interacting with them numerous times to get the answers out of these models. So I think there's a scaling problem there. As we'll talk about in the talk tomorrow, there are automated methods to do this, but again, you will typically need a human in the loop to review the answers coming out of these models to see if they indicate dangerous capabilities.
Thank you, Dinky. So please go ahead, Professor Lin.
Yeah, I think red teaming on AI models, because more mature models today, they have more layers of protections that filter out prompt or checking the output. So more mature model appears to be more robust to the attack like jailbreaking or injection. So that's but certainly some reduce or simplify or less mature models, they tend to be vulnerable to that kind of red teaming. For example, DeepSeek is one example. That's the first observation. And second observation is that the model output could have some ambiguity as my previous panelist said that you probably need a human to check the response because of that ambiguity. So even if with LLM judge, you could misjudge the response of the model when you do the red teaming. That's probably the most difficult part. Okay, and regarding the success story, I have two local stories, two local cases. One is from two local vendors. One is from Trend Micro. They demonstrate on Computex 2025. That was probably two months ago. With the digital twin that they had, the blue team and red team on a digital twin to do the exercise, and then find the vulnerability of the blue teams, and then they could come to the physical system to fix the problem of the model. So that's one example. The other example is done by SciCraft, also a local company, 奥义智慧, and in their conference, CraftCon, also this year, they demonstrate that with LLM to understand a CTI report regarding how to do red teaming on an AI model, they could come up with the attack script and then attack on the model step by step. So in a sense that it could be, the red teaming can be done by an LLM. It learn an attack sequence or a kill chain, which is a kill chain for AI model. And then they can reproduce that kill chain to that AI model to check the vulnerability in different steps of a kill chain. So these are two examples, two success examples that red teaming can be done in different ways.
Thank you. So go ahead. And
Sure. In my point of view, implementing AI red teaming, where experts simulate attacks to identify vulnerabilities in AI systems, has become an essential part of AI risk management. However, from my experience in Taipei City, the biggest practical challenge is the shortage of interdisciplinary talents. Effective AI red teaming requires not only expertise in cybersecurity, but also a deep understanding of AI algorithms, data science, and even domain-specific knowledge, depending on the application. Another significant obstacle is the lack of standard methodologies and tools for AI red teaming. Unlike traditional IT systems, AI models can be vulnerable to unique threats, such as adversarial attacks, data positioning, and model inversion. Simulating these attacks in a realistic and comprehensive manner requires specialized tools and clear understanding of the model architecture and data flows. Resource constraints are also a concern, especially for public sector organization. Red teaming exercise can be time-consuming and costly, requires access of both technical infrastructure and skilled personnel. Furthermore, there are more legal and ethical considerations, particularly when the testing AI system that processes sensitive personal data. Despite these challenges, we have had some success in Taipei City by partnering with local universities and cybersecurity firms. For example, we conducted a red teaming exercise on an AI-powered public service chatbot. The team simulates various attack scenarios, including prompt injection and data leakage, and identifies several vulnerabilities that were subsequently addressed. This not only improve the security of the chatbots, but also raise awareness among our staff about the importance of AI safety. Our experience shows that the public-private partnerships are key to overcoming resource and expertise gaps. By leveraging the strengths of academia and industry, we can build more resilient AI systems. Moving forward, I believe it is crucial to develop standardized guidelines for AI red teaming and to invest in training progress that cultivates interdisciplinary talents. This will help ensure that AI systems deployed in the public sector and robust, secure, and trustworthy. Thank you.
Thank you. And I see the question on the Slido, so I'm gonna switch to the Slido question first. Yeah, one question is about, just assume that we have a defense built up to mitigate the OWASP top 10 LLM threat. Okay, so is there any benchmark or standard that can make sure the defense really works? I think this is the question, especially for the Karl and Cindy and probably Professor Lin. Yeah, so Karl first.
Okay, so let me try and repeat that question. So if we assume that we have a model that is producing good scores on this benchmark, the question is how well this...
let me rephrase it. I think just assume that you have a defense. And this defense also claimed that, okay, he can handle probably the prompt injection or the jailbreak or something else. Okay, the OWASP top 10 large language model threats. Okay, so how can we know, how can we evaluate, how can we make sure this defense really does his work?
Right. So that's almost a little bit of the art and the aspect of red teaming, determining whether the defense is actually successful at preventing someone from using the model for nefarious purposes. So in this case, it's more of the model defending itself, if I'm understanding that correctly. How can we know for sure that the protections that are in place are going to be successful across all questions? I don't know if you can say for certain that it will be for all questions, and this is where you need to go to the specific domain and determine, all right, is it successful at preventing bad use or preventing releasing sensitive information within that specific domain? You can start to compartmentalize it that way and get just certain evaluations on each different benchmark, each different component, which then relies on having subject matter experts and really trying to be as exhaustive for all the different challenges that the model might possess. So that's the first thing that we can do. To determine for sure that the guardrails of a model are being completely successful, you have to not only prompt it, but you also have to kind of continue to evaluate it and evaluate in different ways. So it's a lot of interacting with the model beyond benchmarking. A benchmark provides a good metric, but then having the SME actually spending time with the model, as Cindy pointed out, and just learning its nuance, that can start to clue you into maybe some ways in which the benchmark has gaps, ways that you need to expand the question set or maybe expand the interactions with the model to get a little bit more confidence that it has guardrails that are proper.
Okay, thank you. So Cindy?
Yeah, I think it's a really difficult problem, and I'll touch on, I think the most important aspect is always going to be continuous monitoring. Even if you do pre-deployment testing, evaluation, you think your model's good, you deploy it and people use it in a way that you weren't intending. For example, if you look at most of the jailbreaks that work on models, like historical models and current day models, a lot of them are just weird characters, and the way that the jailbreaks are phrased can be very strange, and that probably could not be forecasted that particular sequence of characters would be entered and then it would enter into this weird behavior. So I think the only way really to ensure that your model is safe and continues to be safe is to have reliable continuous monitoring mechanisms, such as understanding what the inputs are, what the outputs are, and when your model fails, and then trying to design systems that do not allow that failure to continue to work as the model is deployed.
So, Professor Lin, do you want to?
Yeah. We at NICS we are cooperating with ITRI to build the ecosystem of AI evaluation in Taiwan, and we have developed automated test methodology for 5 metrics defined in NIST risk management framework, which include accuracy, reliability, fairness, privacy, and security. These 5 categories we are able to test automatically. And for the other 5, we do it manually, manual evaluation. They couldn't, until now, we still couldn't automate the process. But for the 5 that we have automated test suite, the experience tells us that instead of coming up with a static benchmark, a better strategy is to develop a dynamic benchmark with a lot of variations. If you want to, so you essentially generate test data, and for every piece of test data, you also generate a lot of variation. So because if you change the question or the prompt a little bit, the response or the model could be different. And through this, you can check the reproducibility or uncertainty of the model. And often most model would perform not so perfect. Some perform quite bad, but some perform okay. But some most model couldn't perform perfect. So with a lot of variation, you can test and differentiate them apart. It's like you ask a human being a general question, and if you start to change the question, you will see the performance of different people, and that's how you differentiate them apart. And so that's that's the reason why I think a dynamic benchmark is more powerful in such kind of evaluation, and compared to static benchmark. And dynamic benchmark is not difficult to generate. It could be generated automatically by another model, which is your test model. And so we have been working on producing that kind of variations in the test data set. But it takes some effort to persuade the MODA, the ministry, that you need not a static data set in a traditional way. You need to have a dynamic data set that you can generate, which is different every time you need to test a model. And I think I'll stop here. Thank you.
Okay, so actually we have one specific question for the Director Zhao, about the AI. So is there any plan, or are you using the AI in the Taipei city government? And is there any consideration for the AI safety? Yeah, please.
Okay, sure. Collaboration with governments and industry is essential for the effective development and implementation of AI safety policies and regulations. In my point of view, there are several key strategies that governments, whether national or local, can adopt to foster such collaboration. First, establishing regular and structured dialogue platform is crucial. Government should create advisory committee on working groups that includes representatives from industry, academia, civil society, and regulatory bodies. These platforms can facilitate the exchange of information, identify emerging risk, and co-create practical policy solutions. For example, Taipei City has initiated a roundtable discussion with local tech companies and research institutions to gather inputs on AI governance issues. Second, government should encourage the use of regulatory sandboxes. This controlled environment allows companies to test innovative AI solutions under the supervision of regulators, enabling both sides of better understand to risk and benefit to new technologies. Regulatory sandboxes have been successfully implemented in fintech sectors in both Taiwan and the US, and this model can extend it to AI safety. Third, international cooperation is vital, especially between countries like Taiwan and the United States, which are both leaders in technology innovation. Bilateral forums and joint research initiatives can help harmonize regulatory approaches, share best practices, and address cross-border challenges such as data privacy and cybersecurity. Taipei City is keen to participate in such initiatives and to learn from the experiences of other leading cities. Fourth, governments should support public-private partnership for capacity building and research. This includes funding joint research projects, organization training programs, and development open source tools for AI safety assessments. By pooling resources and expertise, we can accelerate the development of effective safety standards and ensure that they are grounded in real-world practices. Finally, it is important to maintain transparency and public engagement throughout the public-making progress. Government should actively solicit feedback from stakeholders and general public, ensuring that AI safety policies reflect social values and priorities. In summary, by fostering open dialogue, leveraging regulatory sandboxes, promoting international cooperations, supporting public-private partnership, and engaging the public, government can work effectively with industry and to develop and implement robust AI safety policies and regulations. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think I have one more specific question, particularly for the Professor Lin. So, is there any research plan or system development for the AI safety at the National Institute of Cybersecurity?
NICS is not a pure research organization. We have the missions to establish the ecosystem of AI evaluation, but certainly that requires research effort, research and development effort. So we, as I said, that we co-work with ITRI, and try and see and develop. We jointly develop test methodology and tools, and we try to build an ecosystem with NICS being the certification body, and ITRI being the test lab. And once this evolve, it will be multiple test lab, not just ITRI, but there'll be in the future there'll be multiple test lab, And in each industry, there will be one or multiple test lab. As I said, that you need to customize the standard and the test methodology to different industry products. So then there'll be a whole bunch of test labs that doing AI evaluation for different industries. And then NIC's role is to be the certification body to certify the test lab to see whether they qualify to be a test lab in that particular industry. And then we also need to certify their test report. So in a sense that the customer, which might be a company with an AI model or AI product, that they send the product to get tested by a test lab. And before releasing the test report to the customer, the report needs to be examined by NICS as a certification body to see whether the result conform and has a consistent result. And if yes, then it can go to the customer and released. Similar, we are looking at because today these methodology and tools are developed by us, and we closely look at international standard development. Once they have been standardized, and we know how to adopt our test methodology and tools. And after all, it will be the test lab that hold the knowledge, the domain-specific knowledge. And we, NICS, will be checking the generic discipline, criteria. And then once we have, we get into an area, for example, to the medical area, industry, then we need to call some experts in that area to see how the test methodology, how well the test methodology is, and how well the test tools are. So then we can certify a test lab and also certify their test report. So these are the ecosystem I can imagine and that we try to build in the long run. And certainly by doing that, at NICS, we will try to catch up on different LLM and image, voice. These kind of different multi-model model to be tested. But it's impossible for us to know the domain knowledge of a particular industry. We need to call the expert to review a lot of things. So as these develop, so I think that's what I can imagine as an ecosystem.
Okay, thank you, Professor Lin. And I also see on the slide, some question particularly for the Karl and Cindy. The question goes as follows. So the previous talk focused more on the strategy of building the benchmark. Okay, so what's the common tactics of applying this method in the real world? Okay, please.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good question, and you're right that the talk was mostly about building the benchmarks. Applying in the real world, even a standard benchmark and assessing a model's knowledge through that benchmark is kind of a first assessment of the model, and it's a first test of applying in the real world. But if we're talking about actually applying the AI model when it actually is interacting with the real world, then you're right that the benchmark is kind of just a first step and really insufficient. One thing that we've noticed is when you start to have an AI model having access to other tools, the added restrictions and guidelines that you have to put around that environment to keep it safe is definitely a practical challenge. So that gets back to the point of, are you assessing what the model knows, its knowledge, or are you assessing what the model can do? So having an LM hooked up to a machine where it's interacting in a human space presents a lot of safety challenges. We actually saw that in a talk earlier this morning with an AI robot waving its arms around quite aggressively and potentially causing human harm. And so you could imagine the challenges when you're going to evaluate a model for chemical or biological weapons of mass destruction, how incorporating that into the real world certainly produces a security risk. While we want to evaluate the risk of these models, our goal is certainly not to create our own weapon. We are trying our best not to proliferate weapons. We want to prevent bad actors from creating weapons. So having an AI model have access to that type of information and start to evaluate what it can do, we wouldn't want to inadvertently have it actually create the weapon. So that's one of the biggest challenges that I see with incorporating AI assessments into the real world, is all of the constraints and the safety procedures that you need to put into place to actually make sure that you can evaluate this model and not have it inadvertently create something that is basically the whole purpose of what we're trying to prevent.
Okay, thank you. And Cindy?
Yeah, I've been involved in the creation of several benchmarks at this point. And what I find that the benchmarks are really good at doing, I know Karl mentioned in his talk that people are typically focused on the accuracy of these benchmarks. Think of it as a metric like this performs well here, but I actually find the utility of the benchmark a lot of the times is finding out where the model what the model gets wrong and using that as like a starting point for exploration on safety topics, for example. So if you design your own benchmark and you want to look at chemical data or biological data, for example, you'll want to include different areas of that domain and really look into where the model goes wrong, and then use that to inform how you're going to update your safety mechanisms to ensure either accuracy or ensure a unwanted behavior is not being demonstrated. This could be done through fine-tuning or a number of other methods to do safety alignment.
Thank you. And I also see on the slide, though, some questions probably for the Karl, Cindy, and Professor Lin. Yeah, so when you are doing or when you plan to do the red teaming, you are doing the red teaming on the model itself or on the whole AI system. For example, the apps or the whole system. Yeah, I'm starting from Karl.
Yeah, that is a great question, and you're right. Like when we first talked about benchmarks and red teaming in that framework, it is very constrained and confined. So it's an easy problem to assess, or at least it's well defined. When we start actually wanting to assess the real risk when it's in an app, in a user interface, has human interaction with it, now you have all these additional components that you have to think about in terms of evaluating performance, evaluating risk. This conversation that we were having earlier was simply, are you actually evaluating the model's performance, or are you evaluating the human's ability to extract the information from the model? And so that is really something that when you start to have it in the interface and interacting with humans, that even the evaluator of the model needs to kind of be assessed for their performance, their ability to extract the information that you might be interested in. So all that to say is that it certainly adds extra complexity, and that's why benchmarking is always like a starting point. And how you then add on additional layers of evaluation really depends on who's interacting with it, how they're interacting with it, and what are the limitations of that interaction.
Thank you. So, Cindy.
Yeah, I think definitely starting with model evaluation is a good starting place. Eventually, you will want to move on to the entire system, so red teaming the AI system to ensure failure modes aren't identified. first of all, within the model and trying to abstract that from, is it the model problem or is it the deployment and AI system problem? Are the tools that I'm using to do content moderation, for example, effective? You won't know that unless you first test the AI model itself, and then you test the deployment in the AI system that you have, that users will be interacting with directly.
Yeah, I think in OWASP, they have both. They look at both, I mean, the system security, traditional system security, and also the model security. And because you would have malicious actors who try to break into the system. These are the traditional cybersecurity issues. And as an AI product, you also need to concern about this. But if you are coming up with just the AI model itself, which is naked, a naked AI model, not encapsulated in anything else, then you'll be looking just AI model security itself. And certainly what we have been talking today are mostly these areas, how to do jailbreaking, how to do injection on the AI model, which is a kill chain. You could develop a kill chain for an AI model, which is different from developing a kill chain for a system. Okay, so, and I think both need to be considered when AI model is embedded in a product. But if it's naked, then you focus on model security, not instead of system security. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Please switch to the last page of the slides. Okay, I think due to the time limit, I think this is the last question for all of you. Yeah, so in terms of the AI safety risk management, so do you have any idea how to promote international interdisciplinary cooperation or promote the kind of a resource sharing among the countries, among the different society? Yeah, Karl, please.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, this is a good question, and I think we start to address this by even having workshops like we're having today, starting by having an open conversation between nations. The next phase of that is really starting to share the human capital. So once we are willing to collaborate, maintaining that conversation post-workshop will certainly be essential. There are things that we can share in terms of resources, as was discussed in some of the other portions of the morning and afternoon. Any types of tools that we can open source so that can be shared across the communities, that is definitely a useful strategy for having international collaboration. Infrastructure is an interesting one. Shared infrastructure seems like that's a little bit more difficult to do across nations, but if that's a place where we can maybe make some gains, that would certainly be helpful. Obviously, we all have access to certain forms of cloud computing, but maybe not. It might not be as equitable as we would like. And then the other things is perhaps promoting this at different levels of the government. So AI risk is not necessarily just a national concern, it's a local concern as well. So once we are able to share knowledge and whatever tools we can internationally, are we then also sharing that from a national government down to local governments and to industries within those local governments that are actually going to implement them? So making sure that the process and the communication doesn't just stop at the national level.
Thank you, Karl. And Cindy, please.
Yeah, I agree that international workshops are a great way to start this, like this one. I also think that engaging with international communities that are focused on AI safety risk management, so for example, the International AI Safety Network, I think it's called, that's hosted through NIST, is a great way to do sharing amongst international agencies and interdisciplinary agencies. I think also having productive conversations specifically interdisciplinary productive conversations to share how you're doing assessments amongst different fields. You will probably find that some of the issues are very similar between fields, whether it's cybersecurity, biomedical, or chemistry, for example. And I think just having those conversations, bringing domain experts into those conversations to talk about and define the risks as they see them is a really important first step. And then once you get it for your country, sharing that internationally is also a great step so that we can start tackling AI safety and risk management at a global scale.
Thank you.
Okay, I think there's a international network of AI safety institute with 11 countries participating in this network. And I think having such an international platform has two benefits. The first benefit is acceleration of convergence. Okay, if we do not have such platform, then you would have fragmented standards. For example, it could be European standard, Japanese standard, Chinese standard, US standard. So it'll be quite fragmented. And then the convergence will be also slower. Okay, so that's a first benefit. And the second benefit probably is not so explicit, but implicit, which is interoperability, which is that if think about this, are we going to have how many foundation models? Are we going to have how many ecosystems? Is every country going to have their own ecosystem, or there will be one or two or three ecosystems for the entire world? And it will be probably similar to the smartphone today, that you have two major ecosystems, which is one iOS and one Android. And everything else probably exists for a few years, but then disappear. So then you see two ecosystems, and the foundation model is similar to the operating system, and the RAG agents are more like APP. Okay, and then you would need to have internationally. You would need to have several ecosystems, not just handful, maybe 2, 3, but not 10 or 20. Okay, so that will certainly. So with that in mind, I mean that picture in mind, then you see that you need to have interoperability, which is that if you are a RAG developer or an agent developer, you need to think about which foundation model you would hook on. You could hook on to foundation model A, foundation model B, but you could hook on to a few of them, but probably not tens of them. You do not have the energy to do so. So that's the reason why I say that in such an international platform or standard is needed so that we can converge to a few ecosystems, not tens of ecosystems, not hundreds of ecosystems. Okay, thank you.
Please go ahead.
I've seen that there's 2 minutes left, so I got to get fast. Okay, get faster. AI safety risk management is inherently multidisciplinary and global in nature. Many of the risks associated with AI, such as cybersecurity threats, ethical dilemmas, and impacts on critical sectors like healthcare and finance, transcend national and sectoral boundaries. Therefore, fostering international and cross-border collaboration is essential. First, governments should actively participate in international organizations and standard-setting bodies such as ISO, IEEE, and the Global Partnership on AI. This platform facilitates the sharing of the best practices, the development of harmonized standards, and the coordination of responses to emerging risk. Taipei City, for example, is committed to engaging with these organizations and contributing to global discussions on AI safety. Secondly, cross-sector working groups are joint research initiatives can be bridge and gap between different domains. For instance, bringing together experts from cybersecurity, biomedical, and fintech can lead to more comprehensive risk assessment and development of this holistic safety frameworks. Government can facilitate these collaborations by providing funding, organizing conferences, and supporting knowledge exchange platforms. Third, data sharing and interoperability and are critical for effective risk management. Governments should promote the development of secure data sharing protocols and encourage the use of open standards to enable collaboration across sectors and borders. At the same time, it is important to address privacy and security concerns through robust governance framework. Fourth, capacity building is essential. Government should invest in training programs that equip professionals with the skills needed to address AI risk in different sectors. This includes interdisciplinary education, certificate programs, and international exchange opportunities. Fifth, public-private partnership plays a vital role in resource sharing. By leveraging the expertise and resource of industry, academia, and governments, we can accelerate the development and deployment of effective AI safety solutions. In Taipei City, we have initiated several cross-sector collaborations, such as joint project with hospitals to assess the safety of AI in healthcare, and partnership with financial institutions to address AI-related risks in fintech. These efforts have demonstrated the value of bringing together diverse perspectives and expertise. In conclusion, promoting international and cross-sector collaborations in AI safety risk management requires active engagement in global forums, supports interdisciplinary research, secure data sharing, capacity building, and strong public-private partnership. By working together, we can build a safer and more resilient AI ecosystem that benefits all. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Zhao. And I think the time's up. Oh, someone raised their hand.
I really like this topic about international collaborations. I think it's a great start. The only question I have is, what can Taiwan help? Okay, during COVID-19, we have a slogan called Taiwan can help. Okay. And then I like to use this, slogan to start my questions because I like to figure out what Taiwan can help where no other country can help. Okay, this is probably more for our international speakers. And let me provide you more background about these questions, right? Taiwan is the only Mandarin-speaking country in the world has a freedom of speech. So if you want to get Mandarin-speaking training data set, you have to come to Taiwan. You cannot go to China, right? The data are censored. They may be biased through communist parties, lens of views, right? So this is something that Taiwan can do differently than the other countries can do. But besides training data set, like Mandarin's training data set, what else can Taiwan help internationally? And from your point of view, or maybe from our Taiwan representative point of view, what Taiwan can help uniquely than other countries cannot do?
Yeah, I think this question is particular for the Karl and Cindy.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Well, it's a great question, and it almost sounded like during that question you almost answered your own question. But that was a great response. Yeah, definitely. Obviously, providing your expertise in Mandarin in perhaps a less censored or unbiased way is obviously helpful to us, helpful to the entire global community. But not just the data. I mean, we want to get your perspective and your evaluations of these models to determine if a model is biased towards a certain political party or anything like that. We would want to know your perspective, because I think you would know it much better than we would in terms of translating Mandarin to English. Yes, we will be discussing that tomorrow, but I would think that you all are going to be as well versed, if not better experts in that type of topic than we would. So bringing that perspective is very critical to us. One thing that I've noticed more recently that there's less of a gap, but since I've been working in natural language processing for a while now, certainly early on, the performance of language models in Mandarin was really poor. And obviously that has caught up since the early days, since your basic multilingual BERT models. So there's less of a concern that it's going to be able to understand the language, but definitely more of a concern that it might not have a fair and equitable representation of the language. So I would love to see that from you all.
Yeah, I think this is a great question. To give you kind of a story of how the translation experiments that we'll be presenting tomorrow got kicked off, we actually started interfacing with the AI COE. And as a part of the initial discussion with them, we asked them to fill out a questionnaire, just kind of talking about what models Taiwan is using, so that we could get an accurate representation of the climate, the technology climate here. And one of the things that was mentioned on there is the need for a model to accurately produce traditional Chinese text. As somebody who does not speak traditional Chinese or Mandarin, this is not something that I've ever thought about before, actually. Low resource languages, for example, traditional Chinese compared to simplified Chinese that's available online, was not an area of research that I'd even thought about. And in preparing for this productive workshop, we started running some experiments because it brought up the question is, if we do use a low resource language, how does that change the safety mechanisms built into the model? And we'll be presenting some of our preliminary findings on that tomorrow, including the Taipei model that you guys have produced. And so I think just being a part of the conversation, that's a perfect example of, our team had never thought about such a question, but even just interfacing with you guys and considering your viewpoint and the uniqueness that you guys bring to this conversation, I think is unrealized at this point, and it's definitely worth ongoing dialogue to understand how Taiwan can help. And again, like I said in our talk, we are AI safety is a global responsibility. It's not just for the United States, it's not for China, it's for everyone to participate in and try to help us define what AI safety means to you.
Thank you.
I'd like to add one short comment. Well, certainly Mandarin is the focus that we can contribute, but we shouldn't limit ourselves to that. We could contribute on the models customized for some industry that Taiwan is particularly strong. For example, semiconductor industry, IC design, and ICT, and especially manufacturing. These industries are going to adopt. Actually, they are early adopters in AI models, and these models certainly will need to be customized for this industry. And Taiwan is particularly strong on these category, this industry, and I believe we can also contribute a lot here.
Okay, thank you all. And then because of time's up, so I think we should end this session. Yeah, so let's thank all the panelists. Thank you.
Thank you to our panelists and moderator for that engaging discussion. Your insights and perspective have greatly enriched today's forum and sparked meaningful dialogue. Thank you once again. So ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the end of today's program. On behalf of the organizers, we sincerely thank you all for your active participation and valuable contributions through the day.